I recently uploaded a video talking about the various faults of Borderlands 4 and comparing it directly back to the past games to showcase just how underwhelming the support for 4 has been, despite it being overall a decent entry into the franchise. If you haven't seen that previous video, while it's not exactly required viewing, I do suggest watching it before this one, as this video is going to be a bit of a follow-up to that one, where I add on to that video and respond to some common comments that I received on it. How's it going, my wiggly worms? It's your boy, Puss Pimpin', and let's get on into it. I'm going to keep this section brief as it's not really the main point of this video, but there's two things that I want to bring up that I didn't mention in the last video. First, for being an open world game where a hell of a lot of the game is driving from place to place, vehicle customization took a fucking nosedive. There's only one part that actually impacts how your vehicle functions whatsoever, and it only changes stats. The unlock requirement for this is also just use X manufacturer, pretty much. 3 had far less of a focus on vehicles in general, and yet way more in-depth vehicle customization for all of the 4 total vehicle types, while also having the unlocks be tied to crew challenges or straight up hunting down enemy vehicles and returning them to a catch a ride. It had different armors, boosts, weapons, and vehicles to collect and customize with, all of which impacts the way that your vehicle works. And despite not having a heavy focus on it, I've spent a lot of time pimping the shit out of my ride in BL3. And second, the Border Cast. Honestly, this is likely something that most people engaged with secondhand, but it was a podcast that pretty much acted as a news roundup and was also used to host dev interviews and make announcements. I think this helped to really feed into the hype that went around at BL3's content cycle almost constantly, as it was a source of actual community interaction and a pretty damn effective one at that. Now, getting into comments here, I'm going to avoid actually showing any direct comment screenshots or anything like that, because I don't really want to single anyone out within this video, and it's more so the overall points here that I'm going to be responding to. I read almost every comment on that video, and these are the ones that I saw repeated pretty often. The first one is the idea that BL3 was much less balanced and therefore required more patching than BL4 does. Another common point alongside that being that Borderlands 4 is just the most balanced a Borderlands game has ever been at launch. I think both of these statements are just entirely incorrect and can easily be disproven by actually reading the patch notes, which before getting straight into things, I want to be clear, I don't think either game is balanced. But at launch with BL3, the only things that were really egregious were things that were nerfed pretty quickly. This was like the flak nerf and the crossroads nerf. Rip my goat, loved the crossroads, but damn, that nerf was absolutely necessary at the time. And the only thing that was probably egregiously weak at the time was like Zane, which yeah, I'll give you that. But my point here is that most of the patches were done out of just trying to make things better overall and make more things more fun and to expand the meta rather than to fix things that felt incredibly unbalanced. BL3 pretty much always from launch had a really good and really vast meta to it. All these patches did was expand that even further, while bumping down a few things that were overperforming and trivializing the game like flak. But BL4 is absolutely no stranger to this. Take fucking neutron capture, for example. That augment trivializes everything from a story run into the endgame. And while it was changed, I'll get into that a little bit later with my next point, but that wasn't a super effective change that really did too much to quell that. I think the only thing that really got nerfed that had a super big impact on it was like the recursive bleed, which yeah, I'll definitely give them that, but that nerf did take a really long time to come through. But in current day, BL4 still has so much shit that is unbalanced within it. Harlow's blue tree has been shit this entire time, although luckily that's been announced to be getting some changes soon. Vex's green tree is absolutely core to her entire identity. It vastly outperforms both blue and red tree right now, and is likely going to be the absolute core that enables those trees in the future. Vex's Teen Witch class mod just vastly outperforms almost all of her other class mods, which granted, this is less so because of the Teen Witch and more so because of Amp being one of the best damage dealers in the entire game right now, as it's one of the very few multiplicative damage bonuses, making it pretty much a necessity for any gun build that can afford to use it effectively. Rafa's green tree seems almost entirely balanced around I am a gun and bare arms, which is incredibly limiting, but even more so when you realize that every single melee build is also balanced around Groundbreaker, as well Rafa still has recursive bullshit through my last, this game isn't balanced. The idea that BL4 is anywhere even remotely balanced is kind of baffling to me, and I think the idea that whether or not a Borderlands game is balanced or not is a good or bad thing is also just kind of odd to me, because there's no need for a Borderlands game to be well balanced. I think the more so important part is having an actual wide meta, and BL4 doesn't have a wide meta in its current balance. I think the biggest problem within BL4's balance right now is with weapons. I'm gonna be brief with this point because I literally went over this in the last video as well, but the gun meta of BL4 is incredibly lacking, and it's pretty much stagnant across every single character in this game. There's a handful of guns that are vastly outperforming everything else, and even within anything outside of that meta, the same weapon parts are meta across everything. It's either Daedalus, Shotgun, and Sticky, or Atlas and Jacobs. Now, very related to this kind of balance point, another thing I saw a lot of was the idea that BL4 is being way more intentional with patches and changes, and that's why they're coming slower and are often smaller. I absolutely despise having to use this term unironically. I'm too old for this shit. I wake up, my bones ache, I don't pay my taxes, but there's no better word for this other than to say that this is complete fucking coke. We aren't getting better quality changes. If anything, we're actually getting worse quality changes. Because let's go back to the nuke cap changes. What they did was, instead of giving it as bonus damage, it was converting all your damage into radiation. This doesn't even really nerf nuke cap, at least not in a consistent way. What that change does is it specifically nerfs nuke cap against armored health bars. It's still incredibly strong against shield bars and still pretty damn strong against flash. So all this change did was make nuke cap inconsistent, which if you're balancing on consistency, that works for some things. Most of the time it just makes shit frustrating, and it is not a good way to balance at all. It's still one of Harlow's best augments. It's just mildly more annoying to use now. Another great example here is True Mode. Here's the tweet. It got 3,000 views, 55 likes, and Graham Timmons just happened to see it, with his tweet getting another 60 likes. This was posted on September 21st, and not even 3 months later, we have True Mode in the game. And I feel like that's more than enough time to kind of think this through and realize that this isn't actually a great idea, that this is just going to become the de facto endgame scaling for this game, and immediately fast track a lot of issues with build variety and meta variety. But nope, we got it. It is a global toggle that just enables 4-player scaling everywhere and does exactly that, fast tracks all those issues and compresses the meta even further. And I don't know, man, that doesn't really seem super intentional or well thought out. Neither does the million number adjustments that Amon is getting that are going to be absolutely cracked when he's able to benefit from more and more of them as time goes on, as we get more and more level caps. You know, that exact same thing that happened with Moze back in BL3 that they could have learned from with balancing this character this time around. Another comment I saw a decent amount of was that BL3 actually released in a terrible state and no dedicateds was devastating, as well as Mayhem being absolutely unplayable. And yeah, I'm not going to deny these. This is more so an opinion thing. I think it's a little bit hyperbolic, but not having dedicateds at launch was really rough, and the original state of Mayhem was also not the best. But these issues were addressed, the dedicated drop specifically coming October 24th, just over a month later. For reference, it took 4 months for BL4 to increase the drop rates by what, like 3%? Where 3 had probably its single biggest issue fixed within a month, and then by November 21st, Mayhem 4 released, which again fixed probably the other biggest issue. And in this time, while maybe it was unplayable for some people, while we don't have player counts from Epic Games, given the fact that it released on Steam to almost 100,000 players, I'm pretty confident in saying it had more than 4,000 people playing it. Now, the final major point that I want to address here, and the one that I think I saw most often in the comments on that video, despite countering this arguably being the entire point of that last video, is give it more time, or it needs more time, or let it cook. That entire last video was about why BL4 has had plenty of time already, comparing it directly to the time that BL3 had and everything that BL3 did and changed and added in the exact same amount of time. But this argument also implies that they don't already have 16 years of experience with this franchise to understand how to release an actual good game and then support it properly. And I already know there's going to be people that are like, well, they didn't do that with BL3, but Nah, they did. They did do that with BL3. BL3 brought the series forward. It moved the series along. It did so much new shit and it tried new things. And it wasn't afraid of trying those new things. It wasn't afraid of not being the safest possible endgame experience. They wanted to try something new. They wanted to find a new endgame audience. And they were willing to support it in a way that if there was issues, and there was issues, they would fix those issues. They would support it until those issues were no longer issues. And again, as is kind of the entire point of that last video, BL4 is not doing that. Finally here, I have a couple things that definitely aren't worth actually responding to, but I kind of want to anyways because I find it funny. First off, I saw multiple comments from people saying that they didn't even watch the video because either it was just some negativity farming or the title and thumbnail was too clickbaity or whatever the fuck. First off, saying that in your comment and then continuing on to comment on or about the video, not the best maneuver, but second, I don't even think that video is that clickbaity. I think a lot of people confuse the terms clickbait and clickability because, well, there's two titles. I have that on A/B testing. There's Borderlands 4 is a disappointing sequel, or why Borderlands 4 is so much worse than Borderlands 3, and both of the thumbnails are kind of just like the inverse of each other. But that's exactly what that video is about. Both of those things relate directly to the content of that video. This is YouTube, and while I wish I could just title the video, here's all my thoughts about Borderlands 4 and why I personally believe that Borderlands 3 was actually better and I much more appreciated the support that Borderlands 3 had over the current support that Borderlands 4 has. No one is going to click that fucking title. If you're going around discrediting videos in their entirety based on what you perceive as clickbait, I at least hope that you're doing that with videos that you agree with as well. Next up is the BL2 better / series died with BL2 / BL3 bad people. Alright, Unk, cool to see you didn't watch to the end of the video. You know, the part where I actually directly address this mindset and why this mindset is actually what's harming the series as a whole. Anyone that legitimately believes that this is a fact is willfully ignorant to the performance of 3 or is just looking to rage bait through, hey, my game is better actually. Both games can bang, man. I don't know why there's so many people that are allergic to the idea of having more good video games that exist, rather than just having their one video game that they really like be the end all be all and everyone else is incorrect. And finally, I got multiple comments that were like, all you people bitched about 3 and now love it. Listen here, you motherfucker. I've been a goddamn shill for BL3 since day one. The back of my throat has tasted every single inch of BL3's cock, and it's been that way for 6 goddamn years. You put some fucking respect on my name, I will cum guzzle 3 until the day I die. And I've been doing it from the start. Overall, though, yeah, I stand by everything I said in that video. I also just want to say I really appreciate the support that video actually got. It popped off really fucking fast. And of course, while there was a lot of negativity, there's even more positivity. And there was actually a lot of people that disagreed with the video that left really respectful comments and really good arguments that I really enjoyed reading. And I mean, all that discussion that happened in that comment section, good and bad, is why I wanted to make this follow-up video, is to kind of respond to some of the more common stuff that I saw. Also, a huge final little shout out here to my goat Killer 6. He's shown a lot of support to the channel over the last couple years, and I really appreciate him boosting that video out through his Twitter. But yeah, that's gonna about do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all of that. I'll be live right after this video goes up, right here on YouTube, and also from my Twitch channel, where there'll be a link to down in the description below, and just under that is a link to my Discord server where you can come and join and hang out. But with that all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.